Good morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Friday, July 25th, 2014. On the two hot spots globally, the situation in the Gaza Strip still continues to remain the same. There doesn't seem to be any signs of abatement of the fighting. There's been some talk of a one-week truce between Hamas and Israel, but nothing official. Secretary of State Kerry has indicated he will stay in the region until a truce is signed. Yesterday, an Israeli missile hit a United Nations-run school, killing approximately 15 people. The Israelis say it may have been a targeting error, but they also said that there may have been missiles stored in the school. Meanwhile, in the Ukraine, today, apparently according to intelligence sources that have been published, Russia is lobbing artillery shells into the eastern part of the country. There's been no confirmation of that. Severe fighting still continues around the town of Donetsk. Meanwhile, in Mali, French soldiers earlier today secured one of the black boxes of the Air Algeria MD-83 that crashed yesterday on its way to Algiers from Burkina Faso. The MD-83 crash killed at least 116 people. There have been no survivors. The French President François Hollande said that at this point it does not seem as if terrorism was involved as a cause, and in fact it might have been weather that brought the plane down. The last transmission that came from the plane was a request to change its flight path to avoid a storm over the Sahara. That was it. After that, the plane disappeared from the radar screen. The French are taking the black boxes back to the city of Gao, G-A-O, where a French military contingent is based. Meanwhile, the big reinsurance broker Aon Benfield, the biggest one in the world, has reported a drop in second quarter revenues in 2014 on the back of what it called an unfavorable market impact on treaty business. Translation, dipped premium. Brokers are compensated on a percentage of premium, so if the premium price goes down, the percentage, even though the number of the percent remains the same, the total intake is much less. Aon Benfield's revenues were partially bolstered by growth in its capital markets unit. Their revenues dropped by about 4% in the period, down to $360 million compared to $376 million from the same period the year before. Overall, Aon Corporate did post increased revenues of 1%, up to $2.9 billion. Germany's two largest airlines say that they are not yet resuming flights to Israel, even though the European Aviation Safety Agency says that it's fine. Air Berlin says that flights to Tel Aviv remain suspended at least through midday today. Lufthansa says that all flights today have been canceled again because of ongoing security concerns after a Hamas missile landed near the airport this week. Lufthansa says, quote, "It acknowledges the considerable efforts made by Israel to provide the best possible protection for Ben Gurion Airport. However, all flights will resume as soon as the protection can be verifiably guaranteed." American airlines have been permitted to fly back in and out of Israel, and the British Airways system, as well as the Israeli El Al carrier, never stopped. Excuse me. Official figures show that Britain's economy has surpassed its pre-recession size for the first time since the 2008 global financial crisis. Statistics indicate that the economy grew 0.8% in the second quarter, which is really incredible. It grew 3.1% over the year, putting it 0.2% ahead of its pre-crisis peak in 2008. The financial crisis did trigger a deep downturn for Britain. By mid-2009, GDP was down more than 7% below its pre-crisis level. A study released by Aon Benfield says that economic losses from global natural disasters for the first 6 months of 2014 totaled $54 billion, which is a lot of money, but it's about 49% below the 10-year average of $106 billion. A number of the losses come from 7 individual billion-dollar insured loss events, 1 in Asia, 2 in Europe, and the remaining 4 were in the U.S. The majority of economic and insured losses were a result of severe thunderstorms, making thunderstorms the most costly of perils. Chubb Insurance, based in the United States here in New Jersey, has lowered its earnings forecast for the full year after a second quarter that was hit by severe weather losses in the U.S., as well as an unusually high, their words, level of homeowners and commercial fire losses. The Chubb's underwriting department was hit by $146 million of catastrophe losses in the second quarter that were down significantly from $237 million that it took in the same period last year. Despite lower cat losses, their combined ratio actually deteriorated from 88.8% up to 90%. John Finnegan, the CEO, said the results this quarter were adversely impacted by catastrophe and non-catastrophe losses, as well as an unusually high level of homeowners and commercial fire losses. They reported operating profits of $418 million for the quarter as compared to $463 million for the quarter last year. $418 million isn't too bad. Update on the progress of the Costa Concordia, the crippled cruise liner that capsized off of Giglio Island off the west coast of Italy, killing 32 people. It's now past the halfway mark on its final journey. It's traveled 92 miles en route from Giglio to Genoa, where it will be broken down for scrap. It's traveling overnight at a speed of about 2.5 knots, reaching at times a high speed of 3 knots. The Concordia will travel the rest of its journey on the high seas. It's right now in the Tyrrhenian Sea. It's expected to arrive in the port of Genoa on Sunday. I wonder what kind of reception will occur there. That will undoubtedly be a news event. 2 years ago, on July 23, 2012, the sun unleashed 2 massive clouds of plasma that barely missed a catastrophic encounter with Earth's atmosphere. This would have been the most powerful solar storm in at least 150 years, according to a professor working with NASA, physicist Daniel Baker. If it had hit Earth, we would still be picking up the pieces. Fortunately, the blast of the solar plasma was not directed at Earth. Had the event occurred a week earlier, when the point of eruption was facing our planet, a potentially disastrous outcome would have unfolded. According to this analyst, analysts say that a direct hit would have caused widespread power blackouts, disabling everything that plugs into a wall socket. Most people wouldn't even be able to flush their toilet because urban water supplies rely largely on electric pumps. The total economic impact could have exceeded $2 trillion, or 20 times greater than the cost of a Hurricane Katrina storm. The consequences would have been devastating for commerce, transportation, agriculture and food stocks, fuel and water supplies, human health and medical facilities, national security, and daily life in general. Here's the worst part. According to NASA, there's a 12% chance that something like this is going to occur in the next 10 years. My goodness. And we're worried about little things in life. I will be in London for 4 days next week. Matt Bernat will be doing the news from Princeton. If there's anything breaking in London, I will do it as well. Thank you for watching and have a good weekend. If we have anything breaking today, we'll come back on.